Hello and welcome to the Coastal Noise Podcast. This episode is with Jim Pinkston of Pinkston's Music. I'll give a brief introduction because we came into the studio, and just immediately took off, and which is, I like it like that. So just to give you a little intel, a little background on Mr. Jim, he ran Pinkston's Music here in Gulfport for 27 years, lifelong musician, originally born in Memphis, learned to play there, and was a touring musician for many, many years. And that's kind of how he got his start in the industry, learning different business aspects of it and doing different business ventures until eventually he ended up here on the coast and servicing us for 27 years. So a bit of a music legend in the area, and it was great to sit down and talk with him. It's one of those guys that every time I go into his shop and hear him speak to somebody or have a quick exchange with him myself, I always think, how cool would it be to sit this guy down and have a talk with him? And it's really cool that I got to do that here in this setting, and I think that's great. So Pinkston's is closed down for the most part, and he's transitioning into a semi-retired state. Going to do a little business on the side, but he talks about all that and so forth. Future podcasts coming down the way. Of course, if you want to hear more episodes, you can go to coastalnoise.com. I am getting the podcast up on iTunes, I swear to God. It's coming. I want to take my time and make sure I do it right. And luckily, I've reached out to some of the local podcast community around here. Melissa Mott from Monsters and Macros is giving me a handout. Robbie D'Angelo, I'm in talks with him. So it's going to get done. Other than that, so podcast in the future, I'm in talks corresponding with David Elliott of WLOX News, and we are looking to maybe do an episode. As you can hear, it's raining pretty hard right now outside, and there's a big tropical storm, so we're kind of waiting for that to blow through, and we're going to figure out dates and all that. But I'm really excited to talk to him from a journalist standpoint and as a podcaster. Of course, Dave works 7 days a week, WLOX, doing sometimes more than one show a day. So he's been in the trenches a long time, and he's also has radio experience. So that's going to be a great podcast, I think. So, and towards the end of the episode, the closing out, I mentioned some other guests that I'm looking into. So hang in there if you want to hear what else is coming down the pipes. Other than that, follow me, Stephen Lawson Music, on Instagram. That's where I'm at most of the time, and I got a Facebook too. You can friend me there, I guess. Maybe one day I'll be a business, I don't know. Business profile. I am a business son, but I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Jay-Z, little throwback for you. But anywho, those two places, and then I'm thinking about picking up the social media ends of Coastal Noise. I have some outlets out there for Facebook and Twitter and all that. I still got a Twitter too, and I've been using that to send news feeds and stuff that I just kind of formulate there. So there's that. But yeah, for the most part, my profiles and coastalnoise.com. That's where it's at. That's where it's all happening these days. Thanks so much, honestly, truly, for listening. I appreciate it. Don't think I don't. And that's it. Hear what Mr. Jim has to say now, okay? Coastal Noise Podcast, episode number 65, Jim Pinkston of Pinkston's Music. Thanks for listening. Oh, hey, one more thing before we start the show. A couple more seconds, if I may. I may be playing a show at the Almost Circle Gallery July 7th for their Spirit of Summer event. They asked me to do it, and then things went into the planning phase, but long story short, I may be going to Seattle that week, so I don't know if I'll be doing it, but I will know within 72 hours of publishing this podcast. So if you're interested in that, if you'd be curious, you can go to stephenlawsonmusic.com and check it out, and then I'll have the dates and the information posted there. If I'm not there, then Zach Fellman of Blackwater Brass or somebody else will come out, and it'll be really cool. It'll be groovy, so you should go regardless, because the Almost Circle Gallery is just that great of a place. Okay, so that's it. So we'll go ahead and start off the show. The first 5 minutes, we're not situated at the mics yet. We just kind of come in and start talking. So bear with it. First 5 minutes, you can hear everything fine, but after that first 5, then we get settled in and the audio gets a significant bump and improvement. But I've edited it so it sounds pretty good as is. So just hang in there. What you're hearing right at the beginning is Mr. Jim telling a story about how he got his wisdom teeth taken out when he was a young guy in Memphis and couldn't quit smoking, so kept calling his doctor. So that's where we begin the episode there. So enjoy.
Cigarettes. And, I was 23 years old, in Memphis, blah, blah, blah. And I was calling this doctor every 6 to 10 hours because I'd keep smoking. And he, about 5th or 6th time, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's meeting me at his office. And he literally put his hands on my throat and said, "You little mother, call me one more time and I'll kill you." I mean, I'm waking them up morning, noon, and night.
Yeah.
Because I can't quit smoking.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Good times.
Were you able to...
You know what I mean. Who knows, man? I was 23. That was 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I vividly remember that man's eyes as he's choking me.
Were you able to ever give it up?
1990. I moved from...
Year I was born.
I moved from here. I moved from Memphis to here with a wife, a 10-month-old baby, and $4,000. That's what I came to the Gulf Coast with. And literally didn't know a soul. And I'm going to open up a music store in Gulfport, Mississippi. From Memphis. Really? Are you stupid? And anyway, I was so broke, it came down to a pack of cigarettes or a gallon of milk for my son. And I quit because I was a chain smoker. I was on the road forever. 46 weeks a year. You know what I mean, man? Professional union musician. That's what I did. And I quit in 1 minute.
Just like that.
Had to.
And
Gallon of milk, pack of cigarettes.
for your kid. Yeah.
And I know that sounds really whiny. It's the truth.
Well,
true story.
Chemicals, the shit they put in there, it almost overrides your body to where your very neurological inputs and outputs are just out of whack.
Oh,
you have a bodily reaction.
Well, when you were on the road, as much as I was on the road, you had so much downtime. And what did you do? You smoked. It was the 80s and 90s. You smoked.
Back when we had no idea how bad.
No. I mean, 3 and 4 packs a day. Yeah. Anyway, Yeah. But, man, look, I've had a great life. And I don't, it's not like I'm going to die tomorrow or anything, but I would never want to be you. I would never want to live in this time in life. And I know that sounds super stupid, but I enjoyed being a Memphis musician. I enjoyed the 70s through the 90s, the greatest music that was ever recorded, the music biz. I loved being from Memphis. Gigs everywhere, making money. I was in the top 10% of my entire industry.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, good times.
Yeah. Yeah.
great sex.
We should get this on record. No, we should definitely.
Oh man, look, man, do whatever you want to do.
Let's do it. I mean, this is it. This is great.
Sure.
What we're talking about is good.
Great.
Let's just sim off that. Here, you want headphones?
Sure.
Yeah. Check 2. Yeah. So. And that's actually one of the things I wanted to. Can you hear? Okay,
Yeah, sure.
These are SM58, so of course,
Okay.
And that's one thing I wanted to know more about. That I was kind of reading up on you. 2 areas that I wanted to know that are a thing of your life that I don't associate you with, and that's with your history in music of actually playing.
Sure.
And doing the clubs that you were doing and going around as far as between Mexico and Canada.
Sure.
For years.
That was a completely different life.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really was. In the whole music biz, it's almost going to sound like this reminisce kind of a thing, but everything has changed, and nobody can make any money in the music business. What a joke! What an absolute joke, the music biz. You know what I mean? In the 1980s, and man, I don't mean to pull you too deep into the weeds.
No, please.
Or anything like that. The way the live music biz worked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like Memphis is one of the logistic capitals of America. You can be almost any place east of the Rockies, New York, Florida, whatever, in less than 12 hours. Okay, just the logistics of, well, why do you think FedEx is in Memphis?
Ideally located.
Right.
To do business on all grounds quickly.
Yeah, right. It's the largest truck stop in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, every trucking company in America is in Memphis, West Memphis. But your rule of thumb, if you were a band in Memphis, is, okay, you could not drive over 3 hours. So if you were in Memphis, you could drive to Jackson, Mississippi, Nashville, Little Rock, or right south of St. Louis. But that's a huge area. Man, do you know how many gigs there were in that locale? But if you drove more than 3 hours, set up your stage, did a 4-hour gig, tore down your stage, and drove back home, that was a 10-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to pay you? I mean, okay, because time is money. Mm-hmm. And you're on the road and you're out there and you're competing with some of the best bands. You better be good. Mm-hmm. You better be good. Mm-hmm. But if you weren't getting paid, well, I mean, top line pro gear, lighting, sound systems, booking it, a vehicle that can pull the trailer. I mean, you get it,
Mm-hmm. People think you just go on stage, they see musicians and they see you play a 3-hour and wow, what a great job. It's got to be awesome. But you don't factor in the breaking it down, the putting it together, the whole nine that goes into it, the rehearsals, everything.
Well, and again, that goes back to, it's why, okay, in the 80s, in the 70s and the 80s, we did Holiday Inns, Sheratons, Marriotts, Hiltons, because any hotel that didn't have live entertainment, you didn't stay there. Period. And then, of course, the whole Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and you know what I mean? Everything changed where, Memphis, up until the middle 70s, you couldn't buy liquor by the drink. You would have to buy a bottle of liquor and you would pay for a setup. And I would sit there and watch 300 people get trashed. You know, it's 1 o'clock, the bar's fixing to close, and there's this much left in the bottle. Well, let's finish this one off. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
But, yeah, it was middle, late 70s before you could say, give me a bourbon and 7. I mean, that's how arcade. I never even heard the word DUI until the 80s. That word didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how much things have changed. But when you were on the road the way I was, no, you were doing hotels. Man, you weren't doing sloppy one-nighters.
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean, you know, you'd be at a Marriott and you'd wake up and send me 3 eggs, some biscuits, and a large coffee. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, I divert. I'm sorry, you know.
No, that's good. I wanted to know how living in Memphis influenced you as a musician, and so you learned to play there in Memphis.
I started
growing up.
I started playing when I was 12 years old. I got my first bass off of Beale Street,
mm-hmm.
and did my first gig 4 months later
mm-hmm.
at a birthday party at a church next door, and never stopped. And turned pro at either 15 or 16.
Well, churches are good for that, aren't they? I hear so many guys get their legs playing in church bands. They make money.
Oh, no, not church band. No, it's where somebody had rented out a room for their birthday party for their daughter.
Oh, I see.
Right, but...
And then you just played in that space.
Right. And see, but I always approached it as a business.
Mm-hmm.
From the time I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and God, here comes the violin. You know, poor Jim. You know what I mean? You know, I was in Memphis. You had 2 newspapers, one in the morning, one at night, in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And the Commercial Appeal was the morning paper. Well, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning throwing the big paper, and I'd get out of school at 3, and I'd throw the afternoon paper. And then in summer, I'd do both of those, and I'd have 9 different yards to cut grass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I mean? It was just, it's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You worked.
Yeah.
You know, just period.
So you were working
at 9 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did that for a long stretch, and then you started getting on the road and all this. How did you end up on the coast?
You've heard the Heartbreak Hotel, Elvis. I was playing a theme restaurant in Memphis, and I'd put together this rockabilly band, and it was the Heartbreak Hotel, and 7-piece band, blah blah blah. Sean Lane, the fastest guitar player in the history of the world, was my guitarist.
History of the world? In
the history of the world. You can Google him. He's been dead for, maybe 10 or 12 years now. But anyway, be that as it may, of course, it was expensive and the big overhead. It was right down the street from Sun Studios and all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of money, restaurant to run something like that. So went from that to that failed the restaurant, and went from a 7-piece band to a duo, Lonely Street Duo. And we had a house band, and we played in Memphis for years. And I was going through partners, and I was breaking in a new partner, and this agent who happened to be from Memphis, and I'd known him forever. He was a DJ in Memphis. He had moved to Pascagoula, and he booked me on a 3-night gig in Gulfport, Mississippi. And I met a girl. And again, on the road forever and ever and ever. And I was captured. And I was breaking in a new partner. And I had a weekend open before I opened up in Myrtle Beach. And 2 weeks later, hi. You know what I mean? And the rest is history.
Wow.
Kind of a deal.
Yeah.
I was captured. And so we were in Memphis for about a year. And when I made my announcement to my staff that I was closing the store, now that was 28 years ago, that my wife, this is my phone's ringing. Okay. I'm sorry. She said, we need a music store in Gulfport, Mississippi. I'm in Memphis. I said, are you crazy? We're in Memphis and you're talking about a music store in Gulfport, Mississippi? And she ended up being the smartest person in the room, because Lord knows it turned out great. It turned out great. So I had 27 great years on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in retail. And of course, I'd been working retail in Memphis for years.
Okay.
Anytime I would be in town, there was 2 music stores in Memphis that, Jim, man, if you're in town, just come to work. Kind of a deal. Salesman on the floor kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But that's how all of that started with me.
Oh, I got you.
Is just luck, total, complete luck. Sometimes better to be lucky than good.
Out of all the places you've traveled, what makes the Gulf Coast so unique to you?
Now, see, this is going to be a really weird answer. Okay, and you're going to have to ride with me for a second.
Sure.
I'm from Memphis. Racism. Martin Luther King was killed there. I grew up in the 60s, in Memphis, and the riots in Memphis, and, everything that happened in Memphis. Well, I moved to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I truly thought they were punking me. Truly did. Because I got here in, it was either 89 or 90. And everything was so laid back. Mm-hmm. It was so laid back, and I was so used to just racism. Oh, my God. It was so weird. Mm-hmm. But it took about 2 years for me to go, this is real.
Yeah.
And it's this little utopia, the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And over the last 27 years, mm-hmm. I talk to people that come in the store because, create rapport. That's how you sell something. Rule number 1, create rapport. I don't care what you're going to talk about. I like your shirt, your car looks good, or fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Kind of a deal. I would have other people from out of town that stumbled on the Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And they go, is this real? Really? And I know you think you're looking at me like I'm from outer space, but...
No.
No,
I know what you mean. One of the biggest things people say that they love about this place is the friendliness of the people, and it's very laid back. And I think that's a lot in part due to the beach community, and just something about being close to water just makes people so much more liberal,
This isn't Mississippi.
It doesn't feel like it. It used to be Florida too.
It was.
Right.
The Spaniards, this is Florida. But no, this is not Mississippi. You can go 60 miles north and you're in Mississippi. I don't want to get the letters. Okay. But anyway, you get where I'm going. A really, really quick story. Mm-hmm. This happened, let's say 6 months ago. A guy and his wife from the Air Force, let's say New York, wherever they were from. They were being forced to move here to the Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll quit the Air Force before I live in Mississippi. And they said, no, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the guy, he walks in my store. And he says, let me see your banjos. I said, I carry a couple of banjos at Christmas, but besides that, we don't sell banjos. And the wife looks at him and she said, I told you. He truly thought it was dirt roads, people walking barefoot, people hanging in the trees. And that is this whole national concept of what we are supposed to be looking like.
Mm-hmm.
That's how ingrained that ridiculous stereotype of what's supposed to be going on down here.
Mm-hmm.
How pathetic. It's 2017.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, that really happened. And they stayed.
Yeah. A lot of people come through the military here, and then they just end up staying because they like it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate that the rest of the state that we're attached to
America.
is behind. America.
I mean, the way they look at us, and I know what you're talking about, the northern part of the state, but yeah,
I mean, it's kind of pockets of it. I mean, here in between Hattiesburg and then here in between Jackson, it gets rural again, and we are notoriously known for undereducated and undersupplied financially, and the history of racism, and just thinking wise being a little bit behind the curve in all those respects.
And how much is deserved and how much is manufactured. I have never seen in my life, and of course I'm talking about the election right now. Talk about sore losers. Oh my God. Have you ever seen anything in your life like this? It's just unbelievable. It's one step away from a coup.
And where's it going to go from here now that people know that, Trump, like guys like Trump can just become president? If you've got enough money and power and influence, and that's how it's very hard to get in those top tiers, because if you're not backing one of the two sides that are up there, they just cut you out of frame. They will literally cut you out of frame, put you on TV, and just give you the farthest post, and then keep the cameras on, the majority on all the other people.
Oh, nothing's perfect. But I tell you what, look at the last 40 years. Why not try something new? Mm-hmm. Really? I mean,
I think that's what his big appeal was for a lot of people.
Was. Absolutely.
And I was, in a lot of respects, because I started reading his books from just a business standpoint and hearing him talk and things like that. So I kind of had that view of him before he even went into anything years before.
It's not like he needs the money.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, and
he doesn't need anybody else's money.
And that's and we'll get off the politics, but that's exactly what I say. And I'm so sick of beating this horse. That man, if anybody in the world is doing it because he wants to make a difference,
you think he'd be the guy?
Well, yeah, and good, bad, indifferent. He doesn't know all the rules. You're damn right he doesn't.
Nobody does. Nobody can know all the rules for that job.
Right.
You're a puppet figure to a degree.
You're right. But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And everybody's got their own agenda.
Yeah.
And when they woke up that morning, went, oh my God, that didn't go right, did it? But anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody will get over it sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, to come full circle on what I had said is of who it could be next, because now celebrities and stuff like that are going to start saying, people like Oprah or Schwarzenegger or Jesse Ventura or Kanye West or whoever else, they'll say, well, I've got money and people love me.
I ain't got that kind of money.
Yeah, I know. You're probably right.
But he's self-financed.
But it shouldn't be about the money. And if it gets to the point where it's people that get to have more say so, that's the hard part, is making sure that it's
buying
clean.
influence.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting stuff, no doubt.
Yeah, it is interesting times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else is going on?
I wanted to ask you some questions related to business, and I've got a couple here.
Sure.
One thing I wanted to know is what's something that you wish someone would have told you when you opened your first business?
I told you that I worked at several stores in Memphis.
Yes.
And being able to learn the do's and don'ts on somebody else's dime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Man, was that great. But everything changed. And, like I said at the very beginning of this, I've got a friend that when I started out, I was a block and a half down the street. It was 12 foot wide, 40 feet long, with 3 light bulbs hanging out of the ceiling, and I had $4,000. And that's how I started the first music store.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a kid would ride his bicycle to hang out at my store, and he ended up graduating cum laude from Mississippi State, whatever. Well, when he was going to college, I was telling him, I said, there's what's written in a book, there's what's happening now, and there's what's happening tomorrow. They haven't even printed the book yet, but you've got to put the right answers on the piece of paper that mean nothing. Things are changing so fast. And, okay, here goes the old man thing. The internet will end up destroying this entire economy. Hide and watch, my friend. The malls will be closing. There will be no jobs. We are retiling our home. Lowe's, Home Depot, blah, blah, blah. 70% of everything's being drop shipped. They don't have it in the store.
10% is what the guy said is what they carry in store, and the rest of their merchandise goes online.
Right. I mean, just think about it. How are you going to get a job? How are you going to get a job, man? If there's no jobs, you can't make a living. If you can't make a living, what was it all about? What, you went to college to get something to put in a frame that's useless?
Mm-hmm.
And oh God, here's gloom and doom again. It's reality. I did my 27 years and I had a great time. And the internet didn't run me out of business. I closed because I wanted to. 27 years? Come on. But
most businesses can't survive the first 10.
No. And the funny thing is already happening. Okay, and you've been in my store for years, blah, blah, blah. And I need a cord that goes from A to G. Well, gee, I can get that $3 cheaper off the internet. But it's here. Now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you stupid?
But Mr. Jim, you can get 2-day shipping with Amazon Prime.
I need it now. I need it this second to be on stage now.
Oh, the guy for taking that perspective. Okay.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
$3.
Mm-hmm.
It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like I say, but I could have kept on doing that forever.
Mm-hmm. I
don't want to. I'm 62 years old. Everything is kind of just, leveled out. And I'm making some money. You know what I mean? But, I'm ready for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've done well. The building's mine. I own it. The inventory's mine. I own it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And property's something that's actually probably somewhat more stable than everything else.
And that's right. Yeah. And of course, it'll be a doctor's office or a dentist office. It's 8,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some little 2,500 or 3,500 square foot building.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course, location.
Mm-hmm.
So perfect building, It's been on the market for 6 or 8 weeks now that I've all but closed, and I'm doing school band rental. I'm working 9 hours a week. Yay.
Sweet deal. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, newsflash. Okay. School's been out a month. The first week, 16 or 18 people brought their trumpets and trombones. I'm not going to play next year. The second week, 9 people. The third week, 6 people. Last week, 3 people. Well, I'm going to bring 14 SKUs of Ibanez acoustic guitars in. Just impulse buy from $129 to $299. Just something to sell. You know what I mean? But no, I'm not going to have 400 guitars, with $500,000 in inventory.
Mm-hmm.
No, just, gosh, little Susie needs a little parlor-sized guitar, and I want to spend $129. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, my store manager, Ryan, he will be opening up guitar repair in about 10 days.
Same building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I'll have guitar repair on one side, school band rental on the other side. Beginning of the school year, I'll go to 5 or 6 schools that I do every year, and I'll rent my 150 trumpets, trombones, and clarinets. I'm good.
Will you do service work on those the existing people that keep their stuff over the length of the year?
Oh, well, see, that's I am an affiliate for the second largest school band rental company in the nation, and it's called Veritas. And it's a beautiful company. And the way it works is you rent a clarinet, okay? Your only legal obligation is to make 3 payments. It's September. Now it's Thanksgiving. Little Susie doesn't want to play clarinet anymore. Bring it back, you owe me nothing. Boom. You're not in some 2-year contract. Okay, B side of it. Little Susie's clarinet's got a problem. You bring it in, I give you a loaner, fill out a ticket. 3 weeks later, your clarinet's back. Little Susie's clarinet's back. Be there tomorrow. Thank you. That's it.
Would you be able to do custom orders for people if they wanted, equipment or a guitar? Like if somebody wanted a specific thing and they wanted it to come through you first for some reason, or you could offer them some sort of incentive?
Well,
is it just too messy of a thing?
And see, everything is dealerships, or
they want to send you quantity.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You have, this is a big boy business.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not cutting checks for $50,000 and $100,000, go sit on the side. No little boy business. And like I say, that's why I brought Ibanez back in. I was the largest Ibanez dealer forever, and it's great stuff. They're the 3rd largest guitar company in the world. Fender, Gibson, Fender. I'm bigger than you. Who cares? But you're paying for that decal that says Gibson, Epiphone, Fender, Squire. Ibanez, you're buying the guitar. And that's the beautiful thing about being the Ibanez dealer. It is the biggest bang for the buck, and it's great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And God, the return rate on Ibanez equipment, less than 1%, just like Yamaha. I was the 2nd largest Yamaha dealer in the state. Less than a 1% return. Wow. I mean, how many companies can say that?
1% of all their guitars?
Oh, PA, speakers, everything.
Everything, all
Yamaha.
inventory.
Yamaha. Wow. What in user era? But Yamaha, great stuff.
Wow.
Number 1 selling non-powered and powered speaker cabinet in America. Yamaha.
Very cool.
Yeah. And see, that was the whole thing, like the Behringer thing. Mm-hmm. A 30% failure rate. How can you carry something that's got a 30% failure rate? So bad that Guitar Center, musician's friend, I don't care how many they were selling, they were still losing money because the return ratio was so staggering. So staggering. A 30% return rate? Come on. I was on stage, bass player, and Jim, I need a bass player, man. Can you come play? Sure. Long Beach. Similar mixer. It caught on fire. Right on the stage, just went boom! Flames shooting out of the back of it. Not kidding you. You know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get that sometimes with products.
Oh, sure.
And if you deal with that, then your customers come to associate you with broken products. It's not good for business.
And that's the whole deal. There's two buyers. Give me the cheapest thing you got, mister. Or for 20% more, you can have Yamaha. And that's the whole deal. And I always refused to sell crap. Because it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And then you got to service it. And then you got to loan them something. And then you got to go through the RAs and, just.
What business principles do you believe are universal regardless of the type of business you're in?
Oh, wow. If you can buy it at Walmart, if you can buy it on the internet, you can't be in that business.
Nowadays.
Yeah. You see, and God, I know I'm coming across so jaded, and I don't want to come across jaded, but where 10 years ago and 15 years ago, service. Man, service was everything. Try to find a service center for anything. Try it. You cannot find a service center for anything. And nobody wants to pay for service. But when it breaks, they're the first ones to whine. You get it. But it's the truth.
Yeah, because you got to call everything now for service, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. And send it back. 10 years ago, man, Dwight Teller, man, he could fix anything. Yamaha and Roland and all that. And he's still open, but very selective what he even works on. It's all about that. It's nobody wants to pay for anything until there's a problem.
And they want convenience.
Sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the whole deal on that. And see that ramps into where you're going to work. See, everything.
If technology takes all the jobs of what we got to do, yeah, there's going to be some sort of crazy shift in the way that people are going to have to work or not work, and
it's really scary.
They're going to have to adjust the money system or something like that. Are they going to give people enough to get by on basic living, and then because it would be nice, I think, to not have to go to jobs and stuff like that, like to just let technology automate a lot of things, but. What are you going to do with with all the people that are used to a system of capitalism and a system of earning mony by scale, and then all of a sudden you got the jobs taken up by technology? What do you do with all those people? I don't think anybody knows.
This is the Wild West,
right?
And I told you we're trying to just put new floors in. It's time. Kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't believe Sears came out, and on their website they had 80 different selections. They just know we got 12. Everything else is drop shipped. And this guy drove all the way from Pensacola to quote that gig to install. He goes, I knew that this was going to happen. Happens to me every day. This guy's out there trying to make a living, drove all the way from Pensacola, and he knew in 3 minutes he wasn't going to make a nickel. Think about it.
Yeah. everybody's going to have to get jobs in transportation because it's all going to be shipped and everything's just going to be online and then bought for. But then again, you probably won't need that because drones and automated vehicle drivings are going to be able to deliver things to localized areas. You won't have to do.
Don't know the end result. And that's exactly what I say. I'm glad I'm not you.
Yeah. We're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, they're going to pat me in the face with a shovel way before it gets critical on me.
Yeah. I mean, the scary thing is I realize it a lot. I get, a lot of people, my grandparents and folks like that who have some of the same sentiments that everything is changing. And I get it. I get it from the perspective of just what's going to happen and nobody knows. Nobody can say. Like you say, it's the Wild West. So
it is.
We're going to have to develop and grow with it. But something's got to happen. And I just don't know. I don't know. Because then you got to rely on the people to get it together. And are we in the right mindset to fix that kind of economic concern?
Wait, now, are you aware that, let's say 90 days ago, Mississippi, poorest state in the union, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever. Okay, they were going to do an internet Mississippi state sales tax. $50 million they would have collected. They're like, nah, we don't need that money. Really? No. Now, what you really want to think about, who really made that decision? Who really made that decision that the state of Mississippi, their bridges are falling down. They can't pay their workers. They can't pay their teachers. They can't pay anybody. And they don't need $50 million. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, I think 11 states collecting sales tax now or something like that. The state of Mississippi, we don't need 50 mil.
Yeah.
Come on. See, that's that big money. Oh God, now it's a conspiracy theorist. Come on.
Well, yeah, it's about connecting the dots. I mean, the system's so big. How do you turn that ship around?
Don't know. I like to say, just the fix is in. But anyway, be that as it may. Man, I know, I'm drifting all over.
No, this is perfect. No, this is the show. This is how it goes. I've been chugging water like crazy.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to take a 2-minute intermission.
There you go.
Can I get you any? I know it's kind of close to dinner time.
No, I'm fine.
You good?
Don't worry about me.
All right. I'll be right back. Do apologize. I usually don't have to do that in the middle of a show, but I've been trying to stay hydrated.
Don't worry about it.
You can't hold it in. Can't hold it in, folks. No, this is good. You're actually answering kind of a lot of my questions just through telling stories and things like that. Getting back to business and management and things of that nature, I wanted to ask you what kind of important factors are there to consider when you're in a business that requires management of people?
Well, I have always been a karma guy, and I mean to the max. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and I'm a salesman. I've got a high school education. Never one day of college, nothing, zero zip. I was telling you about the music stores in Memphis. You can go get 2 years as an associate, 4 years of BA, or I can teach you the laws of business in about 70 seconds. What school you want to go to, mine or yours? Create rapport. Identify the need. Remove all objections. Close the sale. That's it. That's all you do.
Mm-hmm. And in this area, in the realm of music and business, experiential knowledge is oftentimes much more valuable than sitting in a classroom and reading books. and you can get out and learn a lot quicker, be in the trenches, make mistakes earlier, and be ahead of your peers at a younger age, if you actually get out and start doing, as opposed to going to a classroom study.
Experience is everything.
Yeah.
And
especially
why I was so successful.
Yeah.
People would come and talk about the sound system. Jim, how do you do this? Here, let me show you how.
Mm-hmm.
And you earn that. You earn that reputation of, I taught at NASA for years. I've got 7 sound systems out there. And there'd be some admiral making a speech, and the system is down. And I always equate it to the pilots had a heart attack. And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they grabbed a passenger. You got to land this plane. And I knew where all the systems were. I knew what systems were in what buildings. They couldn't get them up. And I say, shut up and listen. This is what you're going to do. And I would tell them, go to building C. Grab that, and I'd have them back up. Mm-hmm. Kind of a deal. And you create that thing where they trust you. Mm-hmm. And that's, trust is just everything.
Everything.
You can't buy trust.
Right. And loyalty.
Right.
Why do you think through the years did your repeat customers select you over the competitors?
Gosh, okay. I've got a rule. Mm-hmm. I never talk about my competition, but I never get tired of my customers talking about my competition. And that is the truth. But I never, ever, ever talk about my competition. But I just know that my response from my customer base is so overwhelming, to...
And loyal.
How do I do this? And it works. Whatever I told them, it was right. Instead of, well, I don't know, man. They're clerks. I'm not a clerk. I'm not a clerk. Mm-hmm. I was building my own sound equipment in 1969 with a drill and wood and speakers and making my own crossover from Radio Shack. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing I had. There was nothing else. They weren't building it. You had to build it yourself.
Wow.
I mean, the back of a magazine. Have you ever heard of Heath Kit? You would order parts out of the back of a magazine and assemble them. That's where you got your PAs.
How do you reinforce company philosophies and standards with your staff?
Do the right thing every single time. No matter how much it hurts. Do the right thing every single time. Now, when the customer crosses the line, you don't want to talk to me. Because I will tell you, you have crossed the line with me, fella. And this is how we're going to resolve this. Don't come back. But no. If you do the right thing every time, at the end of it all, there's always the 2 or the 3%. We call them the beaters. The people that are just beating you to see how much they can get out of you. Mm-hmm. But once you start weeding out that 2 or 3%, do not come back in my store. Thanks are good. Mm. But, it takes years to come comfortable with looking at somebody square in the eye and saying, you are not going to treat me like that. You got to draw the line. Mm. People do anything you let them do to you.
Yeah.
That 2 or 3%, 95% of my customer base, what a wonderful, wonderful group of people. Mm. Yeah, I've had a great time.
What about the challenges? This is kind of a 3-part thing, but what would you say some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your 27 years at Pinkston's, and were any of those challenges so great that they gave you reason to fear that your business might not continue to be successful? And then kind of as it applies to that first or second question, how did you overcome those challenges? So biggest challenges, did you ever think those challenges would make you fail? And then how'd you overcome them?
Oh, well, diminishing returns. 20 years ago, there was list. Remember that word list price?
Mm-hmm.
Well, take your Webster's dictionary and rip that page out of the dictionary because list doesn't exist anymore.
Is that what MSRP is now?
Yeah, manufacturer suggested retail price. And then there's map price. See, there was no such thing as a map price. That's a manufactured word that came out in the last 15 or so years. Again, before the internet, there were catalog magazines, which was either a 20 or a 25% discount, and they called that MAP, minimum advertised price, where the customer was going to get a discount, but yet the dealer, there was enough margin that they could still afford to carry it, because what you have to understand, I'm sitting there on $500,000 to sell you a $4 cord. Wow. You have to have a margin.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, so to bring that forward, and this, okay, oh God, not eBay. What's the big internet thing?
You got eBay, you got Amazon.
Amazon, okay. Where we were lucky enough, Musician's Friend was bought by Guitar Center. Like the Guitar Center that was in New Orleans. That was originally a Musician's Friend, a brick and mortar building. And Guitar Center said, nah, wait a minute. We're going to let them do the internet. We're going to buy Musician's Friend. They already got the internet, the catalog magazine thing going. We'll be the brick and mortar. And we'll own both. And that's how they got away with not collecting sales tax. Okay? So, anyway, they were the nemesis for the independent music stores. And about 60% of all the major music stores went out of business in the last 20 years. Well, in the last 3 years, where Guitar Center, Baines Capital, and here I am, like Mitt Romney and all that. You remember 8 years ago, Baines Capital and the election and all that. Okay. Guitar Center is a pimple on Baines Capital's portfolio. Okay. Well, nobody's making any money. Again, it goes back to that. Well, GCs aren't doing well because now Amazon is just drop shipping straight from the manufacturer. So GC can't make any money. So nobody can make any money. And we were just lucky enough. And with all this stuff going on in D'Iberville, they're going to pop up a little 10,000 square foot store in the next year or two because they have to keep opening. If you're not expanding, you're not expanding. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyway, but you can't afford to expand because you got to be open 7 days a week from 11 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And that takes employees in a shopping mall that you're paying $36 a square foot for every day. See, everything goes back. The whole conversation goes back.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean,
actually leading into that, of businesses failing and burning out and kind of just, fading out pretty early. I had a kind of a specific question about that. And I kind of want to read this snippet of this article to kind of give folks, listeners, a reference point to kind of what we're talking about and what kind of statistics we're referring to here. And this is an article from Gretchen Schmidt from Fundera.com. So there are 28.8 million small businesses in the United States, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, and they have 56.8 million employees. Small businesses, defined as businesses with fewer than 500 employees, account for about 99.7% of all businesses in the U.S. So how often do small businesses fail? About 2/3 of businesses survive 2 years in business. Half of all businesses will survive 5 years, and 1/3 will survive 10. Does that sound kind of...
yeah, scary, ain't it?
The longer a company has been in business, the more likely it is that they will stay in business. It's those first few years that are the hardest. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also tracked business survival across industries and concluded that these statistics are pretty much consistent regardless of the industry. So statistically, we know running a small business is no easy feat, but occasionally there are individuals to stay in the game for longer than most, as you have. But is almost always comes a time when the doors must close for good and the business is terminated. That being said, there is a difference between a business failing and a business making a graceful exit from an industry or a market to minimize damages, whether it be financial damage or dissatisfaction to employees or customers. And I think this is largely attributed to proper timing and smart managing of resources. If done correctly, I think a business owner can walk away from said closure with a better ability to begin another venture without having to recover from those losses and still have gained maximum benefit from the venture, leaving owners, employees, and customers at a happy endpoint, essentially. All that being said, what advice can you give business owners on reading the market, knowing when to strategically exit from a business venture to minimize the company damages and the personal losses?
Well, my industry, I was, a big boy industry, it's so expensive. It's so expensive to be in the music business. I mean, again, we're not talking about $1.99 tie or anything like that. I mean, you get it. It's $500,000 of inventory, $500,000 building, $1 million all day long, every day. You own it. And if you don't have it, either you're in or you're out. Mm-hmm. You can't be. Oh, well, you know what I mean? You just can't be. But it's not how much money you're making. It's how much money it costs you to make it. If you will look at just money invested versus return, $1 million or $5,000 for a hot dog cart. Now, let me keep going here. $5,000 for a motorized hot dog cart that you could sell a hot dog and a Coke for $5 downtown Gulfport. If you could get a permit, you could break even in 6 months and have a college kid just 3 nights a week doing his little hot dog cart. How long would it take you to break even on $1 million? Everybody eats hot dogs and nobody's complaining about $5. Okay, so it's diminishing returns, and it always comes back to that. What is your gross profit? How much, at the end of the day, was that bottle of water? And that's the whole problem with everything. And at the end of the day, it's all over 15%. Truly. That mic stand. I charge $30 for that stand, and you can get it for $26. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But now nobody's got a job. And nobody's paying inventory tax or property tax or sales tax or anything else. Well, how's that teacher going to get paid?
Mm-hmm.
See,
Yeah. The cycle.
the cycle.
How do you think performance art side of music industry is changing for players?
Oh, what an idiot. I get people that come in. Do you know what Full Sail is?
Full Sail.
Full Sail recording school.
Yes.
I have had over the years, these kids that sign up, and however much money it was to sign up to go to that school for a recording engineering degree, not one person have I ever met got a job. Not one. And they're paying that student loan. They're paying it. A liberal arts. Are you kidding? With that and about $10, you can still go to Starbucks and get something to eat. It's not tangible. Liberal arts. You know, and man, I know that, hey man, I'm doing that. Well, you're stupid. You're stupid. Man, you've got to have something to make a living. Hate to be the bearer of bad news.
I went to USM originally for the entertainment industry, and I was doing their program there, and they had this guy who was overhead in the department, and it seemed all cool. It was cool people, and, you know, but after a year, I started questioning.
They sold it to you
They
because
did.
they had to fill that seat,
Yeah.
and they ought to be ashamed of themselves because, see, they got a quota. And see, people don't think about that. That guy that's trying to get you to sign up for that class, he's not your friend. He's got to fill that classroom. That's his job. Yeah. Ulterior motives. Yeah.
School's a business.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Sure it is. But anyway, yeah. You know, I mean,
Well, I dipped out of it though. I mean, I got it. I went and found a different degree and pursued that instead because I said, well, I know in this field, and that was another thing. Is like I'm kind of passionate about this, so I'm probably going to continue on and learn, you know, and keep up with it. As long as you keep up with something and continuously practice at it, you're going to learn and you're going to pick up. And
Right.
here I am doing this. I got my guitar and music stuff.
and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just not depending on it.
Correct. I didn't spend a lot of money to get the thing that ultimately is kind of the direction I want to do without it. So,
Well,
you know.
and that's the point. Man, look, life is an adventure. Life is an adventure. And I've had a great life, and I've had a great adventure. But, you know, there's plan A, and then there's things that make you happy. Well, plan A and things that make you happy may be two completely different things. But you have to be happy too. So, I mean, you know, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately, some degrees are tied to jobs that are more prominent and still available in the country and stuff like that. So, yeah, I know what you mean. You got to be careful with what you do and where you're putting your money. Once again, it is a business. So
It's an investment in life.
it is. It is.
I have two boys.
Even doctors, not to cut you off, but even doctors' degrees, they have huge, huge loans to pay back, even after they get that top level, always in demand job, you know?
My oldest son, he'll be a doctor in 3 years. He's oh gosh, I never say this right, a clinical therapist. And he got his master's from Tulane and graduated from Ole Miss. And he's doing great. And my youngest son is a sergeant in intelligence in the Army. And he's a little walking computer. I mean, but I mean, and he's killing it, kind of a deal, you know. But they are both doing extremely well. But you know, they have a goal, and I've tried to teach them to be goal oriented. Because if you don't have a goal, you're just washing around. And I'm sorry, man. But yeah, keep your eye on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
How many different little scenario phrases are there out there?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Going back to what I asked about performance music industry, it changing for the players. Within the realm of music and the music industry, who comes to mind today when you think of the word successful?
And what do you mean? Be more.
Well, I guess success would be based on your determination of what you see as success. So just within the music industry at large, or I never asked you. I mean, I assume that you're a fan of actual music in itself, right? I mean,
sure.
So, I mean, just anybody within the industry, whether they're working it as performers or there's someone in the business or management side of it, are there people, and it doesn't have to be today necessarily, it could be somebody from the 60s or 70s when the system was, favorable. Who do you think of, what kind of team or a band or, a good manager for a band or something like that?
Oh, well, one of my favorite jokes is, okay, Hard Rock, Beau Rivage, every night there was a band that was someplace else last night and something broke. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the road manager, he's at the Hard Rock or the Beau and he goes, man, my amp went out. My backup amp's not working well. What do I do? Who do I call? Well, they call Jim. Because, that's the kind of store we were,
mm-hmm.
right? And so it would be, you've got all these bands, and I call them touring for T-shirts. How many shows have you been to where they jump off stage, and before you can get out the front door, they're standing at a counter selling a CD and a T-shirt, right?
Correct.
Because they're not making any money. They're not making any money.
They're trying to merchandise now.
Yeah, it's nothing but, again, touring for T-shirts. I laugh at them. They're so funny because that's all they got. 3 T-shirts. What size do you want it in? Hurry, hurry, hurry. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, which takes away from the performance art aspect of it.
well, it's after the show.
Yeah. But they're forced to kind of transition.
That's right. And don't forget the merchandising tables out front,
Doing it independently.
Sure, but that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But in the day, you would actually have a recording contract. Well, what was the chick's name? Taylor Swift or whatever. Or, somebody was trying to, sell her stuff or whatever. She goes, no, you can't sell my record. I'm going to make money off of my record. And nobody can make, gosh, man, I know I'm just beating you to death on this, but nobody can make any money. It's just stupid.
So did she selling her, like she didn't take contracts? She's just doing it independently or?
Yeah. This was, let's say 2 years ago now.
Okay.
And I'm positive it was Taylor Swift.
Okay.
She had released a CD or whatever, and let's say it was Amazon, and I don't remember the things, but she goes, you're not selling it, because they were like where you don't buy a CD, you're buying one song.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you want my CD, you're going to buy my CD, right?
Yeah.
All the musicians, all the producers, all the people that worked on that CD, and you want to buy one song?
Mm-hmm.
Who's that fair to?
And so she said no to that.
No,
which is impressive for an artist of her caliber.
Right.
With that kind of influence.
But anyway, that's the whole reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's no recording contracts.
Yeah. Because people are doing it largely independently now. They can get the equipment and the know-how, and the technology is getting good enough to where they can just go in, throw it in a computer, edit it and all, which still, granted, there's still magic to be had. I'm not a huge fan of digitally The tools are a lot simpler and all that, but I like analog. I mean, the best sound of music to me is 60s and 70s music.
Sure.
You know, it's close to pure and honest,
Sure.
micing them up and playing, you know, live performances and things like that. But the artists are taking the direction that they're trying to survive and they can afford, and then they can charge it independently digitally. They don't even have to do CDs, and they're saving costs on that. So, I mean, it's just people are still kind of figuring out what the right model is for each individual.
And it goes back to what I said 5 minutes ago, touring for T-shirts. I mean, you know, they're making some chump amount of money to do the gig, and hope to God they got they were good at the table that night. Because, you know, like, see, they're killing time. They got a 40-minute show. Well, where do you think they're hanging out? At my place. They're hanging out at my place on Saturday because they don't go on till 9. And they got to get out of the hotel room, just like the hotel room they were in the night before, because everything's a fly date. And they either rent the back line, and that's what's happening now, where the drummer, he will carry his cymbals and a snare. The guitar player will have 2 guitars, and there's 2 companies on the coast. Of course, I know. You know what I mean? And you know what a rider is?
Is that
a rider is it's a list of, I want this amp, or this amp, this bass amp, this bass amp, this bass amp, this set of drums, this set of drums, this set of drums.
I got you.
And you have to fulfill that rider or we're not playing. Okay. But they were cheap. So it's cheaper for the casino to rent the back line than to pay the band to pull a 40-foot trailer.
Oh.
See, that's the way.
So musicians are going around now with minimal equipment,
right? They're fly dates. I've
always wondered how you could minimize road travel without having to haul a bunch of shit around.
No, man, it's fly dates. No, backline. Rent your backline, and you walk on. You do your sound check at 4. And you go back up to your room, eat, take a shower, go to the bar, go do your 40-minute show. Where are we going to do one on-call or 2? Good night. Thanks a lot.
Is this just for mostly major bands, or can even young guys, up-and-coming bands, can they get access to this affordably?
Well, they can't afford to rent a back line.
I mean, if it was just minimal stuff that they were ordering for, I guess.
I mean, you know what I mean? And it's just, it's, you know, what room were they playing? What room are they playing? You know, what they're like. You know, again, okay, the Hard Rock, that little bar in the middle with all that PV equipment in it that's on a half of a 1 that sounds so terrible because you've got the boss's pit of poker over here and then table games over here. Well, they got this big wall of stuff, and you know, they got the plexiglass everywhere trying to mute everything. Well, you play guitar, you know, if you're not pushing a speaker, you're not getting any tone, right? Well, they've got this big round, they've got $75,000 worth of equipment on a half of a 1. How could it possibly sound good? Possibly. It's impossible. You know, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
No. You know what I mean? It's all smoking mirrors. But they supply the sound system. You roll your bass amp and your guitar amp. The drum booth. They've even got an air conditioner in the top of it. You've seen it, right? At the Hard Rock?
Not that.
Yeah, man. It's a plexiglass octagon.
Okay.
Because do you think that pit boss is going to listen to that set of drums? No. So completely isolated, and they got a sound man that is afraid to move a slider 100,000th of an inch because that pit boss is going to be all over him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's your gig.
I wanted to ask you a question about communication. You have a very distinct way of speaking, a charisma style that I'm sure comes from years of performing on stage and talking to people in a personal setting, in a business setting. Can you explain how you came to develop your communication skills?
Wow. I've got people that think I'm from England. My voice.
Okay, I can see that.
I traveled so much that I picked up so many accents. But the number one thing that I learned, my father had a 7th grade education, grew up in the Depression, blah, 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 blah. But the number one thing that he taught me, and it's what made me really good in business, was to be an instant judge of character, especially when you were out of town and you were the stranger. Everybody knew everybody and you knew nobody. And to be able to talk to somebody for 15 seconds and more than not, nail them. Who are they? What are their true intentions? Because when you're out there and you're 19 years old, you can get hurt.
You got to have good intuition.
Yeah, you do. And it served me well. It really, really served me well. And I got better as I got older. But yeah, judgment of character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You get it.
Yeah, I get it. Is there anybody in particular that you ever learned from, whether it was listening to them speak or maybe an author, somebody who's an effective communicator? You just lived life and learned along the way.
Yeah. I mean, just playing it by ear. Yeah. Good, bad, indifferent.
Part of the adventure, right?
Yeah, part of the adventure, yeah. Just playing it by ear. Because believe me, I wasn't right all the time.
Yeah.
But as I got older, when you do it every single day, you'll get good at anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, what is the definition of insanity?
Do you have any history of radio?
Yeah, I was a DJ in Memphis. WSWM FM 92 Memphis.
Okay.
That's right. Rhodes University it used to be Southwestern University. And I was a public radio. I did it for a little bit. I was a DJ in Memphis live because, as I told you, I approached everything as a business. And if there wasn't money at the end of it, you didn't see Jim. Okay, but yeah, it was. I did a lot of DJ work. We were having a great time, 70s and 80s, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's fun.
Sometimes I wonder if I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah.
I watch the Woodstock documentaries and I watch like The Last Waltz and Jimi Hendrix and just different people. And I'm just like, man, what a far out time. Because you got a lot of the festivals today and you get a lot of the bullshit music.
Yeah.
You get the DJ, or not the DJs, but the guys, the laptop guys. And then just the caliber of musicianship is a little...
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Okay, like Stephen Colbert or whatever the hell his name is, and Jimmy Kimmel and whoever the other guy is. Okay, they have like musical guests. Is it really music?
Don't know. I haven't watched any of those shows.
I mean, man, I look at that, and it's not even a band. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's it's not natural
Right.
looking. It's all so techno and fake. I mean, those guys aren't singing.
Yeah.
It's
They're not doing anything intricate, really. It's just kind of a bunch of noise, beginning and ending in unison.
yeah, you got it. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sitting there watching them, and the song, they're screaming their ass off, right? Mm-hmm. And their jugular veins aren't even moving. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. Mm-hmm. Let's lip sync it.
Yeah. And they missed out on the culture, too, I think. That probably had a lot of influence in the music that was coming out of the 60s and 70s, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it was live every time.
Right. And the reason I think that music was so good and put out so well is because I think that the technology was at such a point where it was the best it had been to record and capture and produce the sounds and things like that. But the technology wasn't so good that you could fake it, that you could run it through a computer or have, this or that. So you still had to be a good musician. You had to be writing good stuff. And
you don't have Sirius radio in your car, do you?
I had it shortly for a time.
Okay, the Beatles. Okay, right. Tascam 3340 was the first 4-track. And, I see you got a Les Paul copy over there. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, do you know what Les Paul's biggest achievement was? Stereo. Did you realize that? Les Paul invented stereo. Andy Williams, Moon River, he gave him, it was after World War II. Germany had been working on stereo, the Nazis. Okay, and anyway, Les Paul, him and his wife, Les Paul and Mary Ford, they came out with, he gave them some money, and they invented where everything was mono. The Beatles, their first 3 albums were mono. Mm-hmm. Well, they were able to sync, the word sync, 2 monos together to have left and right. And of course, Les Paul was the father of stereo. So that's where all that came from. Well, it went from 2-track to TAC, had a 4-track, a 3340. Well, George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, he goes, God, man, 4 tracks is great. But man, just think if we had 8 tracks. So they took 2 3340s and hardwired them. But of course, the tape would get dirty. So they could only track 1 time, but they had 8 tracks. Oh gosh, that was the world. And that's why all those Beatle albums were just so fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then the Beach Boys were right behind them. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's the way all of that evolved. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, it was Les Paul and Andy Williams that made stereo a thing. Mm-hmm. Here I'm in the weeds again. I forget, him and his wife went on TV and said, here's how we do an album. And at a little bitty table. And he played a guitar part. And then his wife, she was a dynamite guitar player. She played a guitar part. Then he went dink. And both of them played at the same time. Whole world went, wow!
What, if you had to pick some of the top performances that you probably ever saw? I mean, are there artists that jump to the top of your mind?
Oh, God. Paul McCartney. You know who Stanley Clarke is, right?
Stanley Clarke.
Bass player. One of the greatest bass players in the world. Okay, anyway, Stanley Clarke is being interviewed, just like you're interviewing me. And so this chick says, man, who's your favorite bass player? And he looked at her and goes, Paul McCartney. She said, Paul McCartney? He goes, when's the last time you ever heard anybody humming anything I ever recorded? Because he's...
Yeah.
Well, is what I was talking to you about when I asked if you had Sirius radio. they have all these interviews right now. They have a Beatles channel on right this second. Okay. And John Lennon would be recording a part, and McCartney, he would record. See, he didn't play the bass part. If you listen to a Beatles album, it's a cello part. They were English. They weren't hearing music the way you and I were Americans. They were classical. And he would record his bass part way after everybody else. Nah, he wasn't worried about his bass part, but he was playing cello lines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, listen to Beatle albums, especially after you get into Abbey Road and all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've got most of their albums.
Oh, man, he's a monster bass player.
Yeah.
Monster. And I'm a bass player. And I was always in duos and trios. And yeah, and in Memphis, as far as recording studio, don't hire Pinkston. Alive, hire Pinkston. Because, badass bass player. Not in a recording studio, too busy. In a studio, solid notes. The best bass player in the world, you never heard him. You never heard the best bass player in the world. You get what I'm saying to you, right? But live, man, I'm 3 people on stage singing lead, backup, and front in the show. So.
Which was a more common thing in the 60s and 70s, going back to that again, as opposed to today where some guys just do one simple job and it's simple.
Sure.
And that just goes into the collective of the thing.
But yeah, man, that was, that's why I was so successful. I was a front man, and like I play a Roland bass guitar synthesizer. There was less than 300 of them ever sold in all of North America. And completely polyphonic. Still have it to this day. And it's the most advanced bass ever made. Where, I could be doing the Memphis horns and a bass part at the same time. How cool. And, I was talking about Sean Lane. Okay, who Billy Gibbons is. Okay, Billy Gibbons sold his Roland synth to Sean Lane, who sold his synth to my partner. Okay, so my partner had the guitar rig, I had the bass rig, and we had analog drums. So we were touring as a 5-piece band, as a duo.
Very cool.
Money.
Which is a huge thing. I mean, when you're trying to minimize minimize the people in the band so that you can get, more of the cut.
Sure, man. We had, had my own little diesel rig, pulling a trailer, 2-man band, keep the overhead low and make the money high.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? Why else would you be out there if you weren't doing that?
Yeah. Got to enjoy it.
Or work at Waffle House. Hey.
Is there any genre of music that you think others would find unusual or perhaps uncharacteristic of you? You got any guilty pleasures?
I've always been so commercial. But, rap and of course, all these home studios and stuff like this. And you see, how can I say this? Especially at Christmas and stuff like that, there's always a chick and the guy's hooked her into buying some recording equipment. You get it. And anytime I can take a guy and say, hey man, you want to do something different? And they look at me and go, what you mean, man? Okay, I say, this is what I want you to do. Have you ever heard of the Beatles? And I'm just pulling that out. You wouldn't believe how many people say no. And
How many young kids say no?
Yeah.
It's got to be young kids.
Right. And I say, you're doing the same thing that every one of your friends are doing, right? And if I see, and I have to feel it in that customer that he's open to that conversation. And I say, this is what I want you to do. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, or just pick it. They've sold 100 million albums. Does that mean anything to you that if any band that sold 100 million albums, you might want to check them out? You think that they just might have something that you don't know about. Just pick their 10 top selling songs and see if you can find one phrase, just one phrase that you can use to make you different than every one of your friends that are doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of dozen people over the years that, man, I did that. And my chick, because they can download it for free, it didn't cost them nothing. And they go, yeah, man, we got a few ideas. And I listen to some stuff that I would have never heard in my life. But of course, 95% of them, no. But somebody willing, they were interested enough in trying to be unique to their situation to invest the time. And that shows to me that they actually want to do something. Because no skin off my nose. Just keep on doing what your friends are doing. Sitting in their living room. Talking about when I become a star. Come on.
Yeah. A lot of kids have the idea of what they're going to be, but they don't necessarily know how they're going to get there. And I guess, like you said, they work within certain parameters that everybody else works in. Doesn't differentiate, and then it also saturates the market with subpar content.
I had a school system to remain unnamed, and they were having a problem with a student. Okay? And this student, he was going to be an artist and a rapper and, all these things, and he wasn't interested in reading, writing, and arithmetic because he was going to be a star. And they had this board of 20 teachers, and they called me in for advice because I'm in the music business. And I sat there and I listened to these teachers talk to this kid and his mother and petting him on his back, how he's going to be so great. And all they were trying to do is to get him out of the school, to say, we tried. Okay, you see the scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to about 5 or 6 of them. Fill this kid full of CRAP. And I stand up and I say, every single one of y'all should be fired. You should be fired, thrown out of your classes for what you're trying to do to this kid. You're trying to feed him a dream that will never come true. The mathematical odds of him making a dime of you. Oh, look at that doodle that you're making. You can become an artist. I mean, truly. They're just trying to get rid of him. Say, we did everything. He just wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. They were going down the checklist. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I walked out of the meeting after about the 5th one. Years later, I bumped into one of the teachers. And they said, and she leveled with me. And she said, you called it. She said, you were exactly right. We had to go through all these steps. Or, because we would have been sued. Well, the kid came to my store years later too. And I mean, he was too young to understand what was going on at the time. I never told him about running into the teacher. But reality finally caught up with him. He's a welder, and he's making a living. But true story. But they had to, all these laws. You know what I'm saying, man? Is oh my God, if we don't do this, there's going to be a lawsuit. That's how socially correct. What word do you want to use? Mm-hmm. But yeah, true
social
story.
Justice warriors.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yep. But that's a true story.
That'll be one aspect of business you're happy to leave behind, huh? Not having to deal with the pettier side of business.
Oh, look, and I was happy to help if it would have been true. Mm-hmm. But they were just playing the game. And what choice did they have? Mm-hmm. But anyway, just another crazy story in life, man.
Yeah.
Of everything that I've experienced in my life.
It's been a good ride, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Good adventure.
Yeah, it has. It's been a great life.
That's awesome.
Every year, It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart.
Comes on Christmas Eve.
I see it every year. I've got an apartment, and I've got 26 pieces, and it's every building, the little town and everything, and it's all backlit and all that. And I turn it on Thanksgiving, and I turn it off on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Just because I want to.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Jim, do you have any other plans outside of what's going to happen once everything, it has kind of settled off and all that? You told us about the renting business of equipment and things like that. Do you have any other side projects planned, or what do you like to fill your time with when you're not doing, music related stuff?
Well, closing Pinkston Music Inc. Woo! I'm still not closed. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting down to it, mind you. Mm-hmm. Getting down to it.
I kind of kept coming back to see, how you were doing with your progress, and you always still had stuff, and you were always still kind of selling. So,
well, and again,
but you wanted to do it with integrity, right? You didn't want to make the market, be bad for the local area, right?
I didn't want to flood it, but and it all goes back to everything's paid for. Mm-hmm. I don't owe nobody nothing. And so the building's mine, the equipment's mine, everything's mine. I'm still doing a couple of $1,000s a week just piddling around. What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong at all.
And like I say, I've got 30 Ibanez guitars that'll be here next week. 13 SKUs. That's it. $129 to $299. Impulse buy kind of a deal. And then before you know it, it'll be the beginning of the school year. And then before you know it, it'll be Christmas again. Yep. Everything's a cycle. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I can't sell a guitar.
Yeah. Well, in closeout, generally I ask guests, where people can go to keep up with them. You're probably not much of a social media guy or nothing like that, but is there anywhere where, if people want to, see your business progress or anything like that, or is it just kind of, where you're at?
You know where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know where I'm at. I'll be there, and then when the building sells, I'll be someplace else.
Yeah.
I'm not really sweating it one way or the other.
I hear you. Well, Mr. Jim, thank you so much for coming out and doing this. This is really cool. For years coming to your store, I've always thought, man, wouldn't it be something if I could just get this guy to sit down, for a couple minutes and just hear him talk at length, since I was like 15 or 16, and here I am at 27 doing it, it's kind of cool for me.
I appreciate you inviting me. I've really enjoyed this. I've done many interviews over the years, but I always enjoy, the one-on-one kind of a thing like this. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this, man. You got a neat little thing here.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. And hey, with all that free time, if you ever want to fill it with some way, I feel like we've only scratched the surface in a lot of areas. You've got an open door to come back anytime you want. So,
thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for the years of service. So that's all, folks. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening. You can check out more of the podcast at coastalnoise.com. Be on the lookout for future shows. I've been in talks with David Elliott at WOLX. We're looking to record a show here, hopefully after this weather blows through. Dave says hi, Jim.
Oh, okay. Hi, Dave.
My podcast with Blackwater Brass is still a possibility. We got kind of pushed back, had to push dates back, but it's still on the table. So other than that, I'm talking to a friend and a military specialist about recording an episode on survival situations in all kinds of emergency and post-apocalyptic scenarios. As some of you know, I've been talking a lot about some aspirations to purchase and custom build a camper van in the future and do some traveling through the U.S. Plans that I talked about extensively on the Mantra and Macros podcast. It was like episode 38 or something like that a few weeks back. And all of those said aspirations have gotten me reaching for books that deal in similar subject matter regarding van life, extended camping, and so forth. So I thought, what better way to prepare for the unknown than by studying in-depth military grade survival skills. So I've done a little bit of research, and I came across the British Special Air Services Survival Handbook, written by John Wiseman, first published in like 1986. It's had several upgrades and additions since then, but it's still kind of like an industry standard for survival stuff. So I've been talking to my buddy in the military about some things, and he knows a lot of stuff because he's, line of work. So we've been talking just for my sake to preserve that information, because it's so much that I talked to him about, of just bringing him in here and doing a podcast, and then in return releasing it so you guys can hear it too, in case things go down and you want to be prepared. Hey, weather like this, you need to have a to-go bag at least that you can just pick up and go survive somewhere for a while. So,
well, just break in a half a second. My wife and I, do you know what we call camping?
What's that?
Holiday Inn Junior, Motel 6. That's that's what we call camping.
Yeah. You're not an RV man? You never aspirations for an RV?
I had an RV when the boys were small.
Yeah.
We were members of Martin Lake Resort, and the little pool, and we had a great time when they were 7 to 11 years old. But no, after that, I want to shower, color TV, honey, ham and turkey.
Yep.
Anyway.
The conveniences get nice, right?
Yeah. That's what we call camping. That's our inside joke.
I like it. So hopefully we'll be getting him in here. So more details will be on that in the near future. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
That was fun.
Yeah. Love it. Now, I do want to get some pics of us chilling here. Show pics and everything like that.